Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Her phone was charging in the kitchen, which was odd, because she never left it out of her sight. One notification. Just one. See you Friday night. Pack light, like last time winking face. I wasn't snooping. I was chopping onions. The screen lit up by accident. Her new phone had that face recognition thing. And apparently, it didn't mind recognizing me when she was nowhere in sight. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The sender's name? Just a letter. See. I already knew who it was. Her creative director. The one she couldn't stand when she first got promoted. Funny how she suddenly started wearing perfume to client Zoom meetings. But none of that matters now. What matters is what happened an hour later, when she came home with Thai food and a look like nothing in the world could bother her. She handed me my usual tofu pad CEW, and I just stared at it. What? She asked, smiling like she was in a shampoo commercial. I didn't answer. I just said, "Are you happy?" She blinked. What kind of question is that? I pressed on. Do you want to be here? Or are you just staying out of habit? And then she said it. No hesitation. No drama. Just a calm, cruel sentence. I want to live for myself. Without you. She actually used those exact words. Like a script she'd rehearsed in her car. I nodded slowly. My heart didn't shatter, it folded. And I said the only thing I could say that didn't end in tears. Go ahead. But not in my house. Not on my dime. She laughed. Laughed. Like I was being ridiculous. Like she was the one blindsided. Then came her backpedal. That's not what I meant. Of course not. Because when a woman says she wants freedom, she still expects comfort. When she says she's done, she still wants dinner. She called it independence. I called it abandoning everything we built, one flirty emoji at a time. But that night, that was just the beginning. She thought she had a plan. She didn't know I had a camera. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't scream or throw things. I just nodded and let her believe I accepted her twisted version of freedom. Because deep down, I needed proof, not just suspicion, not just a half smile over takeout. I needed something that would confirm the gut-sickening feeling crawling up my spine. And I got it. Around 3 a.m., she slipped out of bed. She thought I was asleep. My breathing was steady. My back turned. But every nerve in my body was wide awake. I heard the familiar creak of the floorboard near the hallway, then the soft glow of her laptop in the study. I didn't follow. I didn't even move. I waited until she was done and came back to bed, smelling faintly of vanilla lotion and dishonesty. The next day, while she was at her so-called team strategy brunch, I sat at her desk. Her laptop password hadn't changed. Same as always, Oliva Branch 19, some ironic inside joke from when we used to fight and make up like teenagers. I didn't go to her messages. That would have been too obvious, too emotional. I went to the cloud. I remembered once she mentioned saving her work presentations there because her company had a poor file backup system. That folder wasn't labeled work. It was named July Breeze. Inside it, photos, videos, screenshots, notes, hotel confirmations, and one video. I shouldn't have clicked it, but I did. It was them, her and C. He wasn't her boss. He wasn't even in marketing. He was some guy she'd met on a solo self-care retreat 6 months ago. A ski instructor from Oregon. They joked about me. She called me domestically convenient. Said I fold laundry like I'm auditioning for House Husband of the Year. I wanted to close the screen. I wanted to delete everything. But I didn't. I downloaded it all. Every file. Every timestamp. Every mocking smile. And then I shut her laptop, placed it exactly where it had been, and went downstairs. I made coffee. The exact way she liked it. 1 teaspoon of honey. Almond milk. A pinch of cinnamon. When she walked in, pretending to stretch, pretending to yawn, I handed her the mug like nothing had changed. Sleep okay? She asked. I smiled and said, better than I have in years. She had no idea I was holding a digital time bomb in my pocket. No idea that I'd seen everything. No clue that her little getaway was about to cost her far more than she imagined. But I wasn't going to explode. No, not yet. I wanted her to feel safe. Because only then would it sting when everything unraveled. The night I decided to test her, we had dinner with the Wilcoxes, 2 friends we used to see all the time but had slowly drifted from. I suggested it last minute. Vanessa hesitated but eventually agreed, probably thinking it would make her seem normal and unsuspecting. She spent an hour getting ready, curling her hair and changing outfits 3 times. Funny, she used to do that for me. Now it felt like she was dressing to play a role, to keep her cover neat and polished. At the restaurant, I played my part too. The mildly awkward husband, smiling, nodding, sipping wine while conversations swirled around me like static. Until Darren Wilcox, blunt as ever, raised his glass and said something that made my blood freeze. To Vanessa, he chuckled, for finally figuring out how to live for herself. Cheers to finding the real you. Everyone laughed, except me. My hand tightened around the stem of my glass, and Vanessa shot Darren a wide-eyed look like he'd just read her diary out loud. He backpedaled awkwardly, mumbling something about career confidence and wellness retreats. But I caught it. The phrase, live for herself. The same words she used the night she shattered whatever we had left. I didn't say a thing. I just stared at her and watched her smile fade as quickly as it came. When we got home, she went to wash off her makeup. Her phone was still in her purse, on silent, but I heard it buzz. Once. Then again. I reached in, pretending to grab my keys, and saw a missed call from C. And then the text appeared on the lock screen before it dimmed. You were incredible tonight. That dress should be illegal. I took a screenshot with my own phone, just in case she deleted it. But it got worse. 15 minutes later, I was brushing my teeth when I heard her laughing in the bedroom. I walked in, toothbrush still in my mouth, and saw she was on a call. Loudspeaker. Video off. Don't say that, Cliff. She giggled, clearly buzzed from the wine. No, he didn't suspect a thing. I even made him laugh tonight. It's like I'm juggling two lives and neither of them can see the strings. She didn't see me standing in the doorway. Not until I took my phone out, hit record, and said in the calmest voice I could manage. Smile, Vanessa. You're on camera. Her face went pale. She hung up so fast the phone hit the floor. For once, she was speechless. But I wasn't. Not anymore. She didn't sleep in our bedroom that night. Not because I told her to leave. I didn't say a word. After I caught her on speaker with her lover and told her she was being recorded, she sat frozen on the bed while I calmly gathered my pillow and blanket and moved to the guest room. I didn't slam the door or shout some victorious last line. I just walked away. But silence, in that moment, hurt her more than screaming ever could. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of her crying outside the door. Not sobbing, not begging, just this pathetic whisper of someone who realized her mask had cracked and there was no one left to lie to. I opened the door and stepped past her like she was a stranger on the sidewalk. I went to the kitchen, made coffee, and sat down at the table without a word. She followed a few minutes later, her voice hoarse, her hair a mess, still wearing the same dress she'd lied to me in the night before. You're being cruel, she said softly, holding her mug like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I looked at her, expressionless. You're lucky I'm being calm. She tried to defend herself, said the call was taken out of context, said I was acting irrational. I slid my phone across the table. Open screen. The video of her call with her lover, the one she took while I was still in the house. The one where she laughed about juggling lives. I'm not irrational, I said. I'm just not blind anymore. She didn't watch it. She just stared at the table. She knew what she said, and she knew I heard every second of it. I think we need space, she muttered. Just to break a pause. You already took space, I replied. You just forgot to mention it came with hotel reservations and another man's cologne. That hit her. She flinched. And for the first time, she didn't try to lie. She packed a small bag, said she'd be staying at her sister's, and asked if I could just be civil for the sake of her peace of mind. Peace. I repeated. You don't get to blow up a marriage and ask for peace on your way out. Before she left, she turned to me in the doorway and said, I just wanted to feel like me again. I didn't respond, because I wasn't sure who she was anymore, and I didn't think she knew either. She closed the door gently behind her. I waited. 10 minutes later, I checked the doorbell camera footage. Her sister didn't pick her up. A silver SUV did. One with Oregon plates. And just like that, she was gone. But this story isn't over. Because when I checked the footage from the night before, I noticed something strange. The man's voice on the phone didn't match the man in the SUV. There was someone else. And Vanessa wasn't just lying to me. She was lying to everyone. I wasn't planning on going to a lawyer that week. I didn't want to be that guy, the bitter husband printing out screenshots and stalking license plates. But after Vanessa lied straight to my face and climbed into a stranger's car, I realized I had no idea what else she was capable of. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't midlife confusion. This was an exit plan. So I made an appointment with a local attorney named Brennan Polk. He had a slow, calm way of talking, like he'd seen everything and nothing surprised him anymore. When I told him what was going on, I expected him to smirk or shrug. Instead, he leaned back and said, "You're about 3 steps behind her. But the good news is, she's sloppy." That was the first time I felt something close to anger. Not just pain, not just betrayal, but cold, clear anger that she'd taken our life and turned it into some romantic crime scene without even hiding the evidence well. Brennan suggested I look through any shared files, insurance documents, financial folders, anything she might have forgotten to hide in her rush to reinvent herself. So I did. That night, I went into our cloud drive. Not hers. Ours. The one we used for vacation receipts and photos from our niece's birthday parties. And that's where I found it. A folder labeled simply Receipts. Inside were 3 PDFs. One was a $2,200 reservation for a luxury spa resort in Washington state, dated 3 weeks earlier. The second was an invoice for a designer suitcase set. The third was an e-ticket. One way, booked in her name. Destination, Denver. Vanessa told me she was going to her sister's. Her sister lives 20 minutes away. Denver is 14 hours by car. I texted her, calmly, "How's your sister?" She replied 3 minutes later, "She's good. Just making tea." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I opened the door to the garage and saw what I feared. Her old suitcase was still there. The new one, the one from the receipt, was gone. She never even made it to her sister's house. I called Brennan back the next day and asked him if it was too soon to start talking separation. He said it was never too soon, just a matter of how much damage control I wanted to do now versus later. The part that really made my skin crawl, that suitcase receipt wasn't from last week. It was from over a month ago. She'd bought her escape luggage while she was still sleeping in my bed and pretending we were fine. And that wasn't even the worst of it. The next morning, a delivery arrived. 2 boxes, her name on them, from a jewelry brand I'd never heard of. Inside, a necklace with someone else's initials, and a note that read, "For our next weekend, I can't wait to see you wear this." She wasn't confused. She was committed. But what she didn't know was that I had already started rewriting the ending she thought she controlled. It happened by accident. Pure accident. I wasn't digging for more proof. I wasn't tracing calls or doing anything desperate. I was standing in line at the pharmacy, scrolling through emails, deleting junk, when one of them caught my eye. It was a reply to a message I hadn't sent. It was from a woman named Marla Sloan. The subject line simply read, about Cliff. Her message said, "I knew something was off. Thank you for confirming what I suspected. I'm sorry you had to find out this way." I didn't know who she was, but I knew that name, Cliff. That was Vanessa's creative director. The one she claimed was just a work friend. The one whose number always appeared under the letter C. Turns out Cliff wasn't just some rebound romance. Cliff was a married man. And Marla? His wife. Apparently, Vanessa had emailed Marla a few weeks earlier. Why? I had no idea. Maybe it was some twisted power move, or maybe she just wanted to clear her conscience to someone who wouldn't scream at her. But she used my email address. My old personal Gmail that we once shared for online orders and Netflix logins. She must have forgotten to delete the thread. Marla had replied to that message, thinking I was Vanessa. I wasn't. But now I knew who she was. And I had questions. I stepped outside the pharmacy, walked to my car, and sat there for 10 minutes before typing. "Hi, Marla. This is actually Douglas, Vanessa's husband. I just saw your message. Can we talk?" She responded 2 hours later. She asked for a call. I agreed. I was nervous, pacing by the time I finally picked up. Her voice was calm, measured, but I could hear the pain behind it. "Your wife's been seeing my husband for 6 months, she said, no hesitation. He lied to me about everything. Business trips, budget meetings, canceled dinners. And now, apparently, she's planning a life with him?" I nearly dropped the phone. "She said that." I asked, my mouth dry. "She told him she was going to file quietly. Said you were weak. Passive. That you'd let her go without a fight if she handled it right." I didn't respond. I couldn't. For a moment, I was frozen again, just like the night I saw that first message light up her phone. "She underestimated me too," Marla added coldly. "But don't worry. I have no intention of staying quiet." I didn't know what to say, but I knew what I had to do next. Vanessa had spent months crafting her perfect little fantasy, her grand escape with Cliff. But now she had two people watching, documenting, and connecting the dots she thought she buried. And she was about to learn the one thing cheaters always forget. When you betray someone quiet, you don't hear the revenge until it's already behind you. I met with Marla in person 2 days later. We agreed on a small cafe outside town, the kind with dusty lamps and too many indoor plants. When she walked in, she didn't look like a woman unraveling. She looked like someone who'd already done the crying and was ready for war. She slid into the booth, dropped a folder on the table, and said, "Proof, in case you still needed it." Inside were photos, emails, and one particularly disturbing screenshot of Cliff telling Vanessa, "It'll be easier if we both leave on the same weekend. No more hiding." I felt sick, not just from the betrayal, but from how strategic they were about it. Like this was some corporate merger instead of a collapse of two families. Marla leaned forward. "I know you're probably still in shock, but I thought you deserved to see the level of manipulation. You're not crazy." I nodded. I didn't have much to say. She offered me one last thing before we left, a ring box. Inside was a simple gold band. "That's his wedding ring," she said flatly. "He left it on the nightstand when he flew out to meet her. I figured you might want to return it in your own way." I took it, not sure why. Later that night, I sat in the guest room, scrolling through all the images again. I was numb, not angry, not sad, just empty. I couldn't even cry anymore. Then I saw a letter sticking out from under the bed. Not hidden, just misplaced. It had Vanessa's handwriting on it, folded neatly, never sealed. It was addressed to me, after it's done. I shouldn't have read it, but I did. Inside were rambling lines about self-discovery, how she never meant to hurt me, how she felt trapped by routine and suffocated by comfort. She wrote that I was too kind, too forgiving, that I didn't challenge her enough. She called me safe, and not in a good way. Then came the line that stuck with me. "I know I'm hurting him, but I need to be selfish to finally feel alive." That sentence, that was the moment the sadness turned to something sharper. She didn't just leave me. She disrespected me in the process. She turned my love into a flaw, my loyalty into weakness. I put the letter back. I didn't destroy it. I wanted her to know I read it. And the next day, I left my own note, tucked into her dresser drawer, beside the jewelry box from the man she gave her future to. It simply said, "I've started to feel alive too, just not in the way you expected." Because she still thought I was sitting in grief. She didn't realize I'd already made my next move. 3 weeks later, she came back. No warning, no call, just the sound of the key in the lock and her heels clicking across the floor like nothing had happened. I was sitting at the dining table, drinking tea and reviewing some paperwork I never thought I'd touch, divorce filings. She stopped in the doorway like she'd walked into the wrong house. And in a way, she had. "Hey," she said quietly, almost like a question. I didn't look up, just said, "You left a lot behind." She took a slow breath. I thought maybe we could talk. So I gestured to the chair across from me. Calm, unreadable. That scared her more than yelling ever could. "I miss you," she said after a long pause. "I made mistakes. Big ones. I thought I wanted freedom, but it came with a price. I finished for her." I know. She didn't cry. Not then. She just looked small, deflated, like someone who finally saw the cost of her own choices. And then I pulled out the folder. The photos, the emails, the letter she wrote, the one addressed to herself. She flinched when she saw it. "You read that?" "I did," I said. "And it helped." "How?" she whispered. "Because it reminded me who I don't want to be anymore." She reached across the table for my hand. I didn't give it. "I'm not here to hurt you," I said. "I just want peace." And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm standing on my own 2 feet. No more pretending. No more being safe, or quiet, or convenient. "You got your freedom. Now I'm going to live mine." She cried then. Not loud. Just a quiet stream she didn't bother to wipe away. I stood, picked up the ring box from the counter, hers, not mine, and placed it in front of her. "You can keep that," I said. "It's not worth what it used to be." She left 15 minutes later. This time, she didn't look back. It's been a few months now. I'm not broken. I'm rebuilding. I've started volunteering at a local center, reconnected with friends I lost in the fog of trying to make it work, and for the first time in years, I sleep without waking up in a cold sweat. Sometimes you don't get closure in a conversation. You get it in a decision. And mine was simple. She walked away. I moved forward. Thanks for watching this episode on Reddit Confessions. If you've ever faced a moment where someone you loved made you feel invisible, or if you found the strength to rebuild after betrayal, we'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment about a historical event or personal experience that changed the direction of your life, even if it started with pain. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because sometimes, the best revenge is a quiet, powerful comeback.